Mackenzie Johnston with Tri-State Livestock News, bringing you discussions concerning fair cattle markets. Today we have the opportunity to chat with Jeff Brown of Riverton, Wyoming. He runs Riverton Livestock Auction. Can you tell me a little about yourself, your background, and your involvement within the cattle industry?
Well, I'm located in Riverton, Wyoming. I run Riverton Livestock Auction, which is a DBA. We're part of Winter Livestock. We have 4 locations, 2 in Kansas, 1 in Colorado, and 1 in Wyoming.
What do you think are the major issues standing in the way of fair cattle markets?
In the feeder cattle market, we establish price competitively week after week. And in the fed cattle sector, to put it real bluntly, we lack competition. The 50-14, that's all great and everything, and I do stand behind that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you have a product that's at the end of the road, and you have 4 major packers, and of which maybe 2 come bid on your cattle. We inform them to the point that we just can't trade with them. They gather all the information. They know what's out there. They know what's coming. They have their arms around all the information on our side of the fence. So, the 50-14 is great in theory, but how do you trade with somebody? How do you negotiate with somebody when they have all of the information? It really puts you at a major disadvantage. Feeder cattle, you don't really know unless, you don't know what you're going to see in 2 weeks.
You mentioned feeder cattle. Our feeder cattle markets have been phenomenal over the past few weeks. Why do you think that is when they are not supported by fundamentals?
You have some people out there that are going to, feeding cattle, if that's part of your business, if you are a feed yard operator, you got to have the vehicle, to operate the factory, and that's the cattle. And there's people that believe that there's, better days ahead in the near future here. And that's what competition does. Competition, it's kind of amazing how well it still works on this end of the business.
So you talked about the packers basically having all the leverage, all the information that they can basically control our industry. How do we deal with that? What solutions do you think would fix that problem?
We have to protect our information. When you invite them to the country and they know what's out there, they know what's coming, and if we want to be able to trade with them at all, we have to protect our information. We're never going to go back to the fat cattle trade in town. Mm-hmm. But if they didn't know what they were going to be looking at next week, in terms of purchase, they'd be a lot more aggressive this week. But where they always know what's out in front of them, it just makes them impossible to negotiate effectively with. To negotiate on your own behalf. They've got you. You have a product that's at the end of the road. They're your only buyer. What are you going to do? Honestly, the way the board's been lately, they've been given a positive basis.
What are your thoughts on this DOJ investigation into the meat packers?
Why have we not seen the results yet?
Do you think we will? Or do you think this will be a flop, kind of like the Holcomb fire investigation was? And I know that was just by the USDA.
I think it'll be a flop. I want to promote hope and promote enthusiasm. What are they going to find? What are they going to find that's conclusive? Yeah. That they made money? Well, there's not a law against that. That they out-traded us? There's not a law against that either. There are antitrust laws and things of that nature, but we all know that they have the ability to collude, but they can do that without talking. I'm not really one of those guys that's not against the packer. I just think we have to be for us, and our information is what we have to protect. That's what's powerful. That's how they beat us, and that's also not illegal. So how much teeth is some of these Department of Justice things going to have into these packers? I don't know. Time will tell. But I think it's unfortunate. For example, like our checkoff started for a good reason, a good program. But why are we not using that to further our end of the business? And there's people that argue that it does. But what I say, is why are we so scared of a little reform there? We have to admit that the way we're doing it's not working. It's not helping the producers. They are not representing the group that pays that, is how I feel.
What do you see happening if we don't get some kind of changes in place, whether it be the checkoff or some other changes to fix our industry? What do you see happening to the cattle producer?
I think if we don't see some changes, their percentage of the gross product is just going to keep going down. I just think we need to be aware of that because, in the past, the old saying was the cure for high prices was high prices. The cure for low prices is low prices. But look at what our cattle have done. Our cattle, our live equivalent, our carcass weights are at 50 pounds from a year ago. And you can say, well, the backlog of cattle, this and that. But the reality is the genetics that are out there, they have the potential to make them that big. Now, maybe without the backlog of cattle, we'd have never found out how big they can get. But the reality is the potential is there. So I think we have things facing us today that even low cattle numbers, they can compensate for. I mean, 5 years ago, we did not even discuss fake meat.
Do you think fake meat is a definite threat to our industry?
I really don't know. I do worry about it. I worry about it from a labor standpoint. You hear packers talk about automation. Automation has not worked with live animals, but it works pretty good in terms of automation with fake meat. So I worry about, some of the pressures being put on foreign labor and these type of things that it gives. Our high price box beef didn't hang around that long, but all those things that they did kind of gives artificial meat a place in the market. High prices, foreign labor, things of that nature. We've got a lot of moving parts right now in the business that we need to get our arms around to secure our future. There's no doubt about it.
What are your thoughts on mandatory country of origin labeling? Do you feel that it would be beneficial to our industry?
I don't know that it would or would not, but what I do say about it is, why is that such a big request? Why is that so hard to get? Why is that such a big, tall order for us cow-calf people? That's not asking for something that's unreasonable. That's not asking for something that's hard to do. That's not asking, all we're asking is put a label on it. Just be fair. I don't understand the hurdle there. I do understand the hurdle. Don't get me wrong, but from our point of view, that is not asking for something unreasonable and too much. Everything you buy has a label. We're not saying don't import meat. We're just saying label it correctly. Be mandatory. I believe it does. I believe the voluntary verbiage is out there. I think it needs to be mandatory.
You mentioned imports. What are your thoughts on imports of cattle and beef?
I'm not against it. I think it's business. I think you have to trade with people. Whether it's locally or internationally. But I do think with a pandemic going on and all this stuff in the air and the backlog of 960,000 cattle when we finally got back to killing a capacity, I do agree with what President Trump said in that press conference. We should consider stopping that for a moment and getting caught up. I believe in fair trade. I think you have to be fair to yourself.
Do you have an outlook for calves this fall?
I think that's a big weather question. Our area is very dry. I've driven through lots of dry country over the last couple of weeks, and I do think that weather is going to be a challenge this fall unless we see some significant change here quickly. If we give those grazers in the southern areas, the wintertime grazers, ample moisture, they're going to be pretty aggressive in the calf market. But if we don't see that, it could remain tough. We're getting a little bounce in the board. We just got to get some favorable weather.
If you could sum it up into one sentence, what does the cattle industry need most today?
Competition. I don't know what other word would best describe what we need more of. We've had 25 years of getting along arrangements. All it has done is put us in the corner where we have no more room to give. All these arrangements and all these, the stuff we've done, speaking to like the vertical integration, all it's done is give the cow-calf guy less percentage of the gross, less ability to negotiate. It's been deteriorating for 50, 60 years, and here we are.
Do you have any closing statements you want to make about the cattle markets, the cattle industry, all the issues facing our industry at this time?
I just think that guys like myself, we work for the best people in the business. The production side of our business, it's the best group of people, the most resilient group of people, and we just need to work hard on their behalf because rural America, it means a lot to me. It means more than it ever has. We have got to protect what we've got going on out here in rural America. People in these cities, and they need to know how important rural America is. Mm-hmm. And we do get kind of forgotten out here by the media. And I think over the last several years, we've discovered how powerful the media is and the perceptions that they sell. And if we don't have rural content in that media, our voice out here does continue to get smaller. And that doesn't sound like a big deal until you stop and really think about that for a little while. That's pretty dangerous to us to live out here.